the law requires that service providers should provide service to all consumers, irrespective of where they are, irrespective of what gender they belong to, irrespective of whether they're young or old. The requirement of the law is that those services are provided to everyone. But we get to realize that that is not always the case. So as a regulator, how we help in ensuring that everyone within the country is catered for is when they're providing or when they applying or renewing their application, we require them to provide us with a rollout plan. And with that plan, we will be able to know how do they intend to roll out from one community and then the other community. We understand that they cannot provide services at the same time for all, but that plan will help us to gauge where they are and where they need to be. That is one. Two, let's say from the experience we had from Stockholm, when we came back, we did what we call a back to office report. And one of the key indicators of that report was how do we improve diversity, equity, and inclusion, not only outside or to the operators that provide services, but also internally as an institution. And we recommended that we have what we call a gender subcommittee within the welfare committee we have in our office. That subcommittee will help to bring up ideas, to develop a gender strategy, and to also come with solutions which will at the end promote those three key elements of inclusion. So at the moment we are looking forward to having the strategy developed, and also encouraging us to have a subcommittee on which will promote equity, inclusion, and diversity. And then, we've also, from the IPRIS experience, we've also come up with suggestions on recruitment, because our recruitment were not so very, I wouldn't say inclusive, because first thing first, the advertisement for recruitment was mainly done on newspapers. We recommended that there are other means of communication, because there are people who don't have access to these newspapers. How do we ensure that everybody is given the opportunity to hear about the recruitment notice and to also be able to put on the same footing with others? So that was, now we use radio advertisement, and also on our regulatory messaging, we have encouraged operators to ensure that every message that they are sending that concerns regulation must also be sent not only one language or two languages, but the four major languages that almost everyone can speak in the country, so that whatever information that concerns consumers that are sent out, everyone gets it and everyone benefits from it. I think these are some steps that we have taken. And then in terms of the recruitment that I mentioned, there was a particular directorate that did not have a female in the staff composition. So when we went back, that was one of the good things that was done. They've now recruited a very efficient lady who is also contributing on ICT matters, so it's quite effective. I also remember there were recommendations that we have. Let's say, how do we encourage people with disabilities? Do we create, let's say, a score for them during interviews so that they will either be given some, I wouldn't call it an advantage, but some percentage of score that will also encourage diversity in terms of people with disabilities and others within the institution. So all in all, those have been some of the steps. And one last thing is there's this recruitment of what we call students ambassadors by the Directorate of Consumer Affairs. Over time they thought that the messaging had been the regulator going to the public. But now how about recruiting students bring them to the regulator, teach them on regulatory matters, so that those students will now serve as ambassadors of the regulator to their peers and to the communities that they are from. And the institution have piloted a number of schools. The first team had already been set. They have benefited from training. I remember my colleague at Legal presented what we do at the Legal Directorate. Others presented on the different directorates that they work, so that they have now a very good understanding of what PURA does, and they are also helping us share the same message in their schools and in their communities. So that is also diversely how we are approaching the issue.